afternoon, class. This is day 4 of our class, which is going to be our first deadline. It'll probably be the last of my daily video announcements. I'll still send them out periodically throughout the course, but I just really want to make sure through this first module that I've made that touch and base, once a day, let you know kind of what's going on, where we're at. So let me talk about a couple things today. We do have the deadline for Module 1 of completing it by 11:59 p.m. this evening. So let me first of all talk a little bit about the problem set. So the Module 1 problem set, this particular problem set has a lot of multiple choice, which the multiple choice you get the one free attempt at, your second attempt is still full credit, your third attempt you start to lose points on. When it comes to calculation problems that are not multiple choice questions, though, you should be getting 100% on all of those. Because if you get a question wrong, that you can't get it within the 3 attempts allowed, you can reattempt it. It's going to regenerate different numbers for you, so it's going to change up the numbers in your problem. But also, when you get it wrong, there's going to be a detailed solution that's going to walk you through step by step how to do that problem. And that way, hopefully, you can apply that same reasoning to the next version of the problem. Now, you do want to be careful about overusing this. This is something you don't want to just purposely get the problem wrong 3 times, look at that detailed solution, and then just copy step by step. That's going to be kind of cheating yourself. Not a good idea. So you want to make sure that you're using that only when necessary and you really can't figure it out. You want to use your resources first. You want to use your notes, go back through the videos. You don't want to just blindly Google stuff in this class for anything. If you find yourself saying, I don't know what to do, come to me, come to your notes. Don't just start blindly Googling things. That's when things go bad. It's when you find bad information. It's when you find information that confuses you. So don't do that. So anyhow, next thing up, investigating statistics in the media can be a somewhat challenging problem depending on what you find. So first of all, I want to talk about the difference between a population and a sample. So remember that a sample should be a small piece of the population, but it should be representative. It should be a microcosm. It should be to say, when I take a sample, I'm looking at this and saying, oh, if I expected 50% of my population to be men and 50% to be women, then that better be the same in my sample. If I expected 10% to be wealthy and 10% to be in poverty in my population, then I should see the same thing in my sample. I'm not looking at everybody, I'm looking at a small group, but it should be representative. It should have the same proportions of different classes, or whatever those things might be. So make sure that as you're identifying this sample and population, that you're looking at that and saying, all right, these better be representative, otherwise maybe I'm in the wrong ballpark. Maybe I'm not even having a sample in my problem to begin with, and maybe my whole article isn't about sampling. The next piece is about bias. So you're going to be asked about the sampling method and bias. So I do want to point out for the sampling method, sometimes you're going to have to follow some links in your article. The article will sometimes say, this is based on this survey, and give you a link to the survey. You might have to click that and read it. Oftentimes at the bottom of an article, it's going to talk about the sampling method. So oftentimes you'll find it there. So this bias that we're talking about should be inherent to the sampling method. Please note there's a big difference between non-response and voluntary response. Voluntary response is when a survey is just blanket out there for everybody, just do it if you want. So this is like your Amazon reviews. This isn't a sample, this is just a voluntary response of saying, hey, whoever wants to answer, answer. RateMyProfessor.com is another example of this, that we don't just pick a sample, we open up to everybody and only those that choose to respond do. Now, this is different from a well-chosen sample where someone doesn't respond. That's non-response. That's different. So just be aware of that just because there's people that choose to respond does not make it voluntary. Voluntary is on how we choose who will be included in the first place. So when you're talking about bias, just keep that in mind. Now, another piece you're going to be asked about is whether there's anything misleading in the article. This is not to do with the sampling method. Misleading is based on the words used in the article. Are they trying to make you feel a certain way? Are they trying to get you to think something rather than just presenting the true facts to you? Lastly, I want to talk about variables. So with variables should be something that are recordable for everybody. So a variable is something that can be recorded for each individual in the sample. So eye color could be a variable if that's something that's being recorded, if it's being something asked. Oftentimes it's just one of the questions. So your choice of political candidate could be a variable. Your political leanings could be a variable, something you're going to ask to each person. This isn't going to be percents, things like that. So we're not going to be talking about percents as a variable because that's something you calculate from everybody's answers. A variable is something we record for each individual person. Last thing I want to talk about is late passes. Late passes can only be applied to things in MyOpenMath. So for Module 1, that's going to be the video lesson and the problem set. These add 48 hours to the original deadline, not to the time that you use the late pass, but to the original deadline. You get 2 additional days, and you have 4 of those to start with. Each assignment you choose uses a late pass. So if you need to use a late pass on both the video lesson and the problem set, that's 2 late passes. Okay? I will talk to you soon. I'll send some feedback out once I start grading your assignments.